Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our YNR chat for Sunday, September 21st, 2014. Do you guys remember that time when Devon had sex with his father's wife? Ooh, the scandal of it all. I mean, woo! That totally happened, and I ask you, what the heck was Hilary doing wandering around upstairs in the halls in that part of the athletic club? She had no business being in that part of the building. I am assuming there's a section for the rooms, there's a section for the restaurant, there's a section for the business offices. She was literally wandering around in the hall around the rooms, like hoping. And why was he wandering around there? Did they was it a dalliance? Did they pre-schedule it and I just missed that? It seemed a little just too convenient for me. Did she call him? I hope I didn't miss that. But of course they run into each other and act like they don't want to be together, and well, he doesn't. He's making no bones about it whatsoever, but she acts like she doesn't want it, and first it's just a look between them, and then it's a touch of their hands, and then the next thing you know, they're peeling each other's clothes off in the room. He just opens the door and bam, it's there. I actually, as I was watching that scene, I thought, wouldn't it have been funny if there was somebody else in the room? And YNR took the time to build this very sensual moment of, I mean, they're like staring at each other, and I mean, they really took the time to build that scene before they busted into the hotel room or the individual room. And I thought, wouldn't it have been great if just all of a sudden somebody else was in there like, hey, what are you doing? They just leave those doors open apparently. Devon just opens it and pushes his mother-in-law into the bedroom, and they just totally go through with it. I don't know why I'm shocked, but I was. I mean, it's hard because I'm gonna admit I do feel that there was a chemistry between them in the moments before they were standing out in the hall, and it was just a lot of little moments, a lot of little forbidden moments. It was first a kiss, and then she slaps him, and then a more passionate kiss, and I felt that really summarized the nature of their relationship. They want each other, but she's smacking him away like, how dare you put me in this position of loving you? And then the passion just erupted, and I think it's entirely, almost entirely, the fact that it's wrong, which makes it appealing maybe to the audience, but certainly to Devon, I think, and to Hilary. I think that the forbidden element really can't be ignored. Yes, they were attracted to each other before, but it's now they're spending all of this time together, and again, it's something that Devon wants, can't have, and maybe there's a little bit of that on her end too. So it was passionate, but I still think it's so wrong, and there was no regret afterwards. I mean, or not immediately anyway. I guess I was expecting the regret to sink in a little bit quicker after they had sex. They're laying there in the bed, and they both are smiling. I mean, they're both feeling satisfied. Devon saying like, wow, that was great. It kind of made me ill a little bit, just but I don't really want to get that deep into it, thanks. But they're lying there, and they're just kind of basking in the afterglow of what they've just done, and I guess I expected the immediate regret to sink in, and that's not what happened. They were just kind of enjoying each other until Hilary gets a phone call from Neil, and Neil left her a voice message, and the tone of it was very as if Neil was her father telling her to come home for dinner, and then the reality started to sink in. I'm enjoying this moment here with you, Devon, but oh yeah, I'm married to another man, and he's incapacitated right now, and I'm not only his wife, but I'm his caretaker. I have this responsibility, and I have to get home. So she does go home, and I'm sure that the regret would have been written all over her face if Neil could see her face. And much to my surprise, I assume to the audience's surprise too, she gets home and Neil tells her, I have something to tell you. I've made a decision and you're not going to change my mind. I want a divorce. And I mean, a divorce? I was really shocked by that. The scenes that followed, pretty much Neil was begging her to leave him. I love you. I want you to have all of the best in your life, and I can't give you all of that. I can't participate in this marriage in the way that I originally thought. Therefore, let's pull the eject button. That's not what real love is anyway. Real love is being there for somebody and accepting the fact that you're a partnership for better or for worse. And just because a month into the marriage you hit worse doesn't mean that it's all no good. And I was surprised that that would even cross Neil's mind. Maybe it was the effect of his conversation with Malcolm and all the other feelings that he's going through. But he begs her to leave him and she refuses. She just says, you know, I couldn't live with myself if I left you. And I thought that said a lot. I mean, she wasn't going on and on about the depth of their relationship and her love for him. Although she does love him, it was really more about her responsibility. This, you know, you're my responsibility. I am your wife, and I think that's what's been guiding a lot of her actions. You know, throughout the course of this affair, the emotional part and now the physical part with Devon. I think she feels completely, you know, like she has a duty that she has to fulfill with Neil, which is not very romantic. It's not very sexy, which is, and that's opposed completely to what the nature of the relationship with Devon is. So she refused to go through with this divorce. She had her chance. She certainly had her chance to get out right then and there. She could have been like, well, if you say so, I guess I could leave you. And then go live happily ever after with your son. But she didn't choose that. And I do, on some level, respect her for that. I don't know. I mean, for crying out loud, she just slept with his son. Ugh. But at least she was redeemed a little bit. Whereas Devon goes off and there was a scene following where Devon and Lily are together. And Lily's very happy that Neil seems to be making progress. And we're going to have to be there for him and do things for him now. And Devon said something mysterious to the effect of, I know what I have to do now. And I thought, is he going to tell Neil? He might. He might tell Neil and decide to blow this whole thing up. I don't know. I think probably it's going to come, the storyline itself will come more to an arc of, I imagine that Neil's going to get his eyesight back at the exact moment that Devon and Hilary are having I don't know, a kiss or a stare or something, and Neil's going to come to just in time to see that. That's just how I picture the whole thing arcing in my head anyway. But it's possible that Devon could decide to fess up. He's got to feel guilty. This is his father. I mean, Neil's known him for a couple of months, or Hilary's known Neil for a couple of months, but it's his father. So Hilary leaves because Jack shows up at the apartment and kind of interrupts this argument that they're having, and she leaves it like, I'm not leaving you, I'm leaving the apartment, but I'm not leaving you. And Jack is there with Neil alone, and he's kind of giving him a pep talk. Jack is saying, you know, you need to keep it together, and, you know, not just your relationship, but your life. And I thought it was just an interesting side note that Jack mentioned how he thought he'd never walk again. I totally forgot about that. I guess it was Patty shot Jack in the spine or something, and he couldn't walk forever, and it looked very grim for him, but he went through the physical therapy and he was able to walk again, and why shouldn't Neil see again? That was just kind of a funny side note that I'd forgotten about. But Jack was also very overtly encouraging Neil to stay with Hilary, and that was a little bit surprising to me. I guess I thought that maybe Jack might give Neil a gentle nudge in the opposite direction. He knows what's going on between Devon and Hilary. And Jack doesn't know the extent, but he has sensed on more than one occasion that more than an appropriate relationship is going on. So I thought, well, all of this entire week might have been a good opportunity for everyone to just kind of cut their losses and move on. At the beginning of the week, we got to experience Nick's full proposal to Sharon. It was very, very sweet. I could have done without the whole sports analogy part. He was like, Sharon, we're a team and we may get traded to other teams from time to time, but will you be on my team again? Derp. That was dumb. But he made up for it by giving her original engagement ring back with an upgraded diamond, of course. That made up for the dorkiness. But it was cute, all in all. I really enjoyed it. I think Nick and Sharon just have an undeniable 20-year-old chemistry, and I do enjoy watching it, and I feel happy that they're on track for now. They both go to the athletic club for a little getaway before they have to go back to the reality of the house and the kids and Mariah. And just as they're walking in the door at the athletic club and talking a little bit about their engagement, Victor walks up behind them and overhears that they've gotten engaged again, and he's not particularly happy about it. Sharon has become one of his arch nemesis, more even than, Jack in some ways. So Victor's not happy, but Nikki bumbles along behind him as well and overhears, and Nikki's reaction was kind of unexpected. Did you guys think maybe Nikki was going to be a little more grumpy about the engagement? She was instead totally opposite of Victor, totally supportive of their relationship. I think at this point, Nikki just wants somebody in her family to be happy, even if it can't be her. And they do seem happy. They really seem happy for the moment. They go upstairs to have a private room, and there was this beautiful, slow lovemaking scene with Nick and Sharon. And I guess the thing that really caught me was just that it was slow. It was such an interesting contrast to the passionate crash bam boom lovemaking scene that we got with Devon and Hilary earlier in the week. They really took their time and showed each zipper coming undone. And it was really enjoyable, and they played that beautiful song over the scene, and it's become the Nick and Sharon song. They have so much chemistry, and it's gonna be such a shame to watch it all get wrecked while they're enjoying these, I assume, kind of last happy moments together. Victor has found out about this engagement, and he ends up kind of, I don't know if it was on purpose, I think he kind of tracked Mariah down. It seemed like he was following her a little bit. In the park, he kind of shows up, they have an argument, and then it sort of developed into a nice little sit-down chat at the new Park Cafe, the Chancellor Park Cafe. I swear, I think Wyatt listens to what we're saying, because it's nice to have an outdoor restaurant. We saw it a little bit for the first time last week with Malcolm and Neil, and this time we got a more fully fledged Park Cafe with tables and little signs, and we know what to call it, and it seemed like they had drinks and maybe some perfect little finger sandwiches or something for the rich folks in Genoa City that hang out at the park all the time. It's the swankiest park ever. But it was interesting to see how Mariah and Victor have had a negative relationship, and now they're sort of sitting down, and maybe they're just trying to both get on each other's good side to avoid any more hassle. But Victor's feigning a little bit of concern about her and tells Mariah that Nick and Sharon are engaged now, which Mariah still has her eyes set on Nick. I think even if it's kind of come back a little bit, I think she wants Nick and or doesn't want Sharon to have him. So when Victor tells her that, she was definitely not quite happy about it. But Victor was also trying to be nice to her to maybe get a little more information on Ian's whereabouts, which was so completely insensitive. Mariah's not working with Ian. Look at what he did to her. How hard is that to figure out? Of course she doesn't know where he is. I think she would give him up if she did know. So I think Mariah, you know, for as many bad qualities as maybe she has, as she definitely has, as a matter of fact, I don't think she's still involved with Ian in any way. But we'll talk more about Ian a little bit later. After Mariah and Victor break up and Nick and Sharon have had their wonderful evening together, Sharon comes, I suppose it was the next day, it seemed like the park again, where the graveside, it's not the park, but the graveside where Cassie is buried. And Sharon is talking out loud to Cassie and wanting to share with her the fact that she and Nick are getting married again, when a vision of Cassie appears. And I was really, my immediate first thought was, that's pretty bold of Mariah to dress up as Cassie again. I mean, Sharon, I thought, was really well back on track with the cuckoo train. She maybe have forgotten some things, but the shock treatment seemed to at least keep her on target. She's been taking her meds, but now she's seeing Cassie, and I think Sharon had this reaction too. Why am I seeing you? I've been doing well. Everything's going well. I only tend to see you when something's going wrong. And of course, Cassie starts going on about the secret. Maybe I'm here because you need me. I know your secret. You need to know your secret. And I completely thought that it was Mariah. And then, of course, Sharon wakes up from the dream, revealing that that's all it was. It was only a dream, but it did seem to jog loose some memories for Sharon. She is remembering herself standing outside of the diagnostics lab. She is seeing that creamy nude lipstick tumbling down the stairs, and she is starting, I think, to put together some of the puzzle pieces. Good Lord, it can't be long now, I would think. But as soon as she wakes up from that dream, she comes out of it with a sense of urgency. She knows she did something wrong. She knows she's on the verge of figuring it out. And when she does figure it out, or when it comes out, there's going to be no hiding it from Nick. There's going to be no hiding it from everyone. And all of the goodwill that she's built up with Nick, with the family, with everyone is going to be smashed to pieces. And she tells Nick, we need to get married. I want to get married right now. She has this sense of urgency. We gotta solidify this deal before my secret comes out. So she goes off to the athletic club to make wedding plans. I did laugh a little bit because Nick is just down for anything. He's so unaware, loves this woman, wants to be married to her, love of his life, long time love of his life, and all of a sudden she is telling him she wants to get married quickly, but not a quickie wedding, you know? And Nick has no idea what she means, and he said, I'm just gonna pretend I know what you mean. That was such a cute moment, because that is sort of the dynamic of male and female relationships, because women are very complicated, and we expect that maybe the guys know what's in our head or can interpret that, and the smart thing for guys, husbands, to do is to just nod your head and say, yes, honey, I understand exactly what you meant. And I just liked that just brief little moment. I thought it added some dimension and some realness to that relationship. Well, not that it needed any help, but as Sharon goes off to make the wedding plans, Nick is at home with the kids. They had planned on telling Faith and Noah together that they're getting engaged, but the kids kind of sense that something is up, and they're hounding Nick. Is it true? Are you guys getting married again? They completely guessed the secret, and Nick has no choice but to tell them Faith will no longer be a love child. Thank goodness, so we can just move on from that. Get that little fixation in her brain. But Noah is the one, I believe he brought up something about that traffic ticket. Mentioned how far Sharon's come and something about the traffic ticket and blah blah blah. So Nick goes over to the desk, pulls out the ticket, and we still see Sharon, you know, driving on that day. So that's why in our telling us it's all gonna come together. Don't forget about that traffic ticket, because that's gonna be an important piece when they all lay it out, when it all lays out in front of us. Sharon comes home from making the wedding plans and she sees that ticket still sitting out on the desk, and I think that was just another thing to jog her memory. It all keeps coming to, you know, flooding back to her, and she asks Nick, why did you have that out? And he plays it off, but it's sitting there in the back of her mind. Now, as they're kind of talking, Mariah comes from down the stairs. She's come back home. She doesn't want to live there, but she has this idea that she has to. I don't want to sidetrack too far, but Mariah, you don't really need to stay in town. Sharon doesn't need the money. You're not beholden to these people in any way beyond what you think you are. If Mariah is this free spirit that's been traveling around, and which is kind of the impression I got of her, I don't see any reason why she couldn't leave town. But she is under the impression that she needs to stay. Something more has got to be going on with why. But she comes from down the stairs, and Sharon is very happy that she's there, and Mariah is very nicey nice when Nick is in the room, but the moment he leaves, they start getting into this vicious argument. Mariah is very resentful about Sharon having given her away and really said some hurtful things to Sharon. I'm under the impression that when the delivery happened and the baby switched happened and Cassie got taken one way and Mariah got taken another, I didn't get the impression that any of it was really Sharon's fault. I kind of buy that she was young and drugged and inexperienced and was being manipulated, but Mariah was really throwing all of that in her face, like, you didn't even know you had twins, how could, and you were too out of it to even know what baby was what, and it was just really below the belt. And I did feel bad for Sharon, because Sharon did say, I am your mother. You know, whether you like it or not, I am your mother, and you will not speak to me like that. And I enjoyed Sharon putting her foot down on Mariah, but I don't know. Mariah is coming off like just a vicious brat. It's good. I mean, I'm enjoying watching it. I think it's interesting to see a mother-daughter rivalry. We tend to get a lot of father-son rivalries, but this is a little bit different, and I did enjoy it. After the argument is over, Sharon is taking a nap, and she has a nightmare, and she's really close, very, very close to remembering what happened, what her big secret is. And Mariah being back in the house means that Mariah is also very, very close to figuring it all out. And Mariah doesn't waste any time, particularly on the heels of this vicious argument. Mariah runs to Victor to give him the scoop about Sharon's secret and how horrible it is and how she has it. And at this point, I think it's, you know, just thinking about Mariah a little bit, it's not about money anymore. I mean, her initial interactions with Victor were that she was doing a job, and now that job is over. She doesn't stand anything financially or, I don't know, even emotionally really to gain. I think at this point Mariah is in this for revenge. Mariah wants Sharon's world to explode, and she wants to be the one to light the fuse. Well, Mariah can just stand in line, because if anybody's going to take the first shot at Sharon, it's going to be Phyllis. I cannot help but feeling bad for Sharon, because it seems like the happier she gets, the quicker the walls are closing in on her. Phyllis is at this, she's in her coma, but she is coming out of it. The doctor is giving her lots of special attention because Victor's on the other line barking in his ear about trying to give him advice about what to do with the patient. I was so annoyed with Victor this week. I mean, he's telling the doctor to just proceed, give her more medicine, as if he knows anything about this delicate situation. She could die. The doctor's telling him this medication is very powerful. I can't just keep giving it to her. And Victor's like, I don't care. Do you know how much money I donated to you for this? She could die. And he doesn't care at all, or that doesn't factor into him at all. It's incredibly insensitive. The doctor is saying, you know, some interaction with her family might help her come out of this. And Victor says, no, under no circumstances is she allowed to have any kind of interaction with her family. Why? I don't understand why this has to be that big of a secret. From the get-go, it would have been less interesting. But Victor could have said, oh my gosh, you guess what? I found out this is experimental treatment. Maybe because I still love Summer and Phyllis is still part of my family, I am gonna invest in helping her. It didn't have to be on the sly. So any secret that Phyllis has is gonna come out whether she woke up under her family's care or with or without them. So he is just a total jerk right now. And I am scared to know. The doctor just keeps saying, I mean, we've heard this like 3 weeks in a row. Phyllis she might come out of this. She might not be the same person. I mean, I am really getting like Bride of Frankenstein vibe from her, like she's gonna sit up from the slab. Maybe she gets like that white streak in her hair and she's just gonna kind of march toward Sharon and stick out her hands and kill her or kill everybody. I don't know what to expect. It is very FrankenPhyllis, don't you think? So the doctor's paying lots of special attention to her. At one point, he comes, we see a scene of Phyllis reaching over to the photos that are sitting on her nightstand. Does she grab the photo of Summer? No. She grabs the photo of Jack, and she's looking at it. Next thing we know, the doctor comes in to check on her. The bed is empty. The photo of Jack is sitting on the bed, and Phyllis is gone. Oh man, yeah, it was a good scene. It's such a creepy. With the medical gown and everything, I'm telling you, it's Frankenstein. It's just so weird. Leave it to Phyllis to get up out of a coma, find herself some tennis shoes, get dressed, and start hitchhiking her way from Virginia to Genoa City. Isn't that where she was? And I seem to recall, unless I'm wrong, isn't this medical facility like off the coast of Virginia or something? Like, what's she gonna do? Swim? I just have to quickly mention at the beginning of the week, Mariah throws a pitcher of water on Abby at the underground. I just thought, well, it's about time somebody threw a pitcher of water on Abby. The only time Abby is interesting to me is when she's fighting with Mariah. So oh gosh, Abby's on the scene all week. I know some people like her. I'm sorry, I can't. It's not working. It just doesn't work for me. And she is on the scene all week, and I can't even pay attention. I'm just spaced out until the moment that Mariah throws a pitcher of water on her, and then I was happy. I thought, you just better be glad it was a pitcher of water instead of getting pushed into the pool at the athletic club, Lily and Hilary style. I am a fan of that rivalry. I think that's the best Abby has been. And I do think that Mariah has some redeeming qualities. I am very interested in her relationship with Kevin. I think that has some real potential. They ran into each other again this week. He was very complimentary to her. He's a sweet guy. He's been trained by Chloe. He's been whooped by Chloe. So he's nice to her, and in return she razzes him a little bit. She gives him a little bit of a hard time, which is what he's used to. That's the kind of dynamic that Kevin's relationships do tend to take on. So I'm for it. I think they could soften each other up a little bit, but not too much, Y&R. I like a nice, strong, hard edge on my Kevin, and I think Mariah is this is a great opportunity to have a hard edge on her. I like her. I want Mariah to tell me what Kevin is doing with his typing. She catches him on his computer this week and makes some kind of mention of, what are you writing, a novel? And he's very quick. He doesn't, or it's fiction or something. And he's very quick to get her to don't look at my computer screen. But I wonder what it is. Is he writing nonfiction? How is it going to come into play? I don't know what Kevin's up to, but I think it's that their relationship is cute in the meantime. I laughed at the fact that they are sharing a connection over this fiction series. It's like a fictional fiction series on Y&R, and they have these little references of the book to one another, and kind of in the same way that it's the same formula that they had with Kevin and Chloe with the Pretty in Pink. You know, they've got these little references that they're sharing with one another. And I just loved it when he put his hand on her head and told her to take with her the touch of doom. I think I just don't have a crime mind, a criminal mind or something, or I'm not a good detective, because all of the evidence that Paul's trying to put together about where is Ian Ward is really kind of getting lost on me. I'm struggling to have to focus on it. There's all kinds of little pieces of information, the whereabouts and the evidence and the blood DNA, and I'm just kind of, it's washing over me. And maybe part of it's because I don't believe it at all. I mean, I don't believe he's dead. I don't believe Dylan killed him, and so maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just hard for me to follow because it's not believable. But Paul leaves his own congratulations, distinguished citizen party, which it would have been nice if the governor would have shown up to. He leaves his own party, really ticking Chris off, by the way. Her face, ooh, she was not happy. But he leaves the party to go take Dylan back to the police station to question him. Avery is trying so hard, like, no, why are you, what's that all about? But they just try to play it off all nicey nice. They all kind of try to hide what's really going on. I think Dylan knows that he's lying about some things and doesn't want to give up too much. If he's innocent, I don't know why he would lie at all, but they kind of nicey nice their way out of the party without anyone being suspicious, and Dylan and Paul go back to the police station. He gets questioned. Paul reveals that there was blood on the driveway at the ranch and the DNA matched Ian's blood type, and at the same time Paul was taking Jeff's word for it. A witness saw Dylan at the racetrack when he said he wasn't at the racetrack, so basically Dylan's alibi doesn't match, and Paul has to ask him, did you go to the coffee house or did you go to the racetrack? Where did you go? I don't know, is it too, maybe my brain is just not able to grasp this complexity or something, but I feel I am more on the emotional side of the situation. I feel bad for Avery. She's smack dab in the middle of all of this. She knows that Dylan is hiding something. He has lied repeatedly about what he's done. He ends up telling Paul that, you know, giving in, that he did lie about his hand. He says he punched a wall and gave Paul that little piece of information, and it's just he's lying, but I don't know why. If he does, I don't know. I think unless he doesn't trust himself. The PTSD has been brought up several times. Just before Dylan leaves, though, he gives Paul this gift, the gift that he wanted to give him for congratulations. It's these handmade fly fishing lures, and Paul opens it after Dylan has already left, and the look on Paul's face was just, oh, you know, this is my first Father's Day present from my grown murderer son. There's just, you can tell Paul's caught in the middle too. There's no amount of handmade fishing lures that are going to help Paul qualm his fears about another son of his being dysfunctional. The Detective Harding comes in and gives Paul the jacket. They found Ian's jacket behind the quarry, and there was a business card for the path inside the pocket, so that's how they know it was Ian's for sure. Of course, a stack of business cards. It had that's probably that one guy, that colleague that he had. It's probably his jacket, for crying out loud. But then of course there's mud on the jacket, and genius Paul deduces that there's only one kind of mud that this could be. You can tell tell by analyzing mud by the eye. You can just eyeball mud and know exactly where it came from. But it's red mud, and it can only be from the granite deposits that are found by the quarry. Oh, Lord. Paul goes to Avery's apartment to thank Dylan for the handmade fishing lures, and he sees these muddy boots of Dylan's, which Avery's already discovered too. I mean, Avery finds his boots kind of stashed, and when Paul stops by, he completely sees them. Avery gets super defensive. She's a lawyer. She's been a defense lawyer for most of her life. That's what she has done. Dylan comes in, kind of sees that there's this discomfort between them, and he has to admit to Avery he lied about how he hurt his hand. Avery's not wanting him to say too much in front of Paul. It's kind of clear that Paul is worried that this is just a repeat of the Ricky situation. I don't think Paul is wanting to arrest Dylan, but he just seems to be following the evidence, and Dylan did lie. If somebody lied, then they're lying. So I think it's natural that he's continuing to ask questions. I think it's natural that Avery is wanting to protect him. After Paul leaves, Avery and Dylan do have a moment together where he admits he had a blackout, and that's when he put his fist through a window. I thought he said a wall earlier, but now it's a window or something. I don't know. Maybe the reason I think Dylan admitted that in front of Paul, actually, because he said something like, yeah, I blacked out for 2 minutes, but it's not long enough for me to kill anyone, so don't worry. Well, how do you know how long you blacked out for? How do you know it's 2 minutes if you blacked out? Blackout doesn't work like that. You black out. You get no sense of time or what you're doing. So maybe Dylan is lying. Well, he said later after Paul left, he said, I'm lying, I've been kind of keeping it a secret because I didn't want anybody to think it was my PTSD flaring up. Well, having another episode like I did with Connor where I lost touch with reality. Well, if you're having episodes like that, you need to care enough about yourself and care enough about your family to go get it checked out and be honest about it. Lying to them and covering it up is only hurting them in the long run, and that was pretty much Avery's argument too. If you're having blackouts and PTSD episodes, you need to say something about it. But Dylan is very adamant. He didn't kill Ian Ward. In fact, he said that when Paul was there. What, you think I killed Ian and stashed his body at the quarry? So I think what we have is doubt. We have doubt from Paul. I think we have doubt from Avery. I think they both want to believe the best of Dylan, but are not really able to shut off the inquisitive parts of their brain. I think what we're going to see in the coming weeks is doubt working its way into Dylan's mind. Could I have done this? I think the evidence is going to pile up. It's going to point in Dylan's direction, and he's probably just going to assume he did it. At the very end of this arc, Paul goes back to the police station, and one of the officers tells him that somebody made a phone call about Ian Ward's life insurance policy. Somebody called whoever the holder of the life insurance policy was and made an inquiry about it. And Paul says, "Oh, really? Who would have done that?" And it was Dylan McAvoy. I mean, come on. The thing is now that he's admitted to having blackouts, it's the doubt. It's going to be like, well, could you have blacked out and called the insurance company? But why? Why would Dylan want Ian's money whatsoever? It's all set up to make it look like Dylan killed Ian. It's obvious. Ian has been planning this all along. Nikki and Maureen run into each other at the athletic club, and of course Maureen doesn't know Nikki's real name, or no, she does know her real name, but she accidentally lets slip, "Oh, hi, Sherry," right in front of Victor, and Victor's like, "Why would she call you Sherry?" "Why would you do that? Why would you call you Sherry? Your name is Nikki. Your name is Nikki Newman." And of course, Maureen is being a good friend so far. She covers for Nikki. "Oh, sorry, I don't know why I said Sherry. Oops." That was the first test of their friendship, which Maureen passed. fortunately. They have a little meeting, I think it was at the bar, where Maureen reveals who she is. I mean, now it's revealed who Nikki is. Now it's time for Maureen to say she's Stitch's and Kelly's mother, and also says, by the way, we have another thing in common. We might possibly have a grandchild together. Isn't that just wonderful? Let's seal it with a drink. And Nikki shoots her the knives, like dagger knives, staring into Maureen's face, saying, "Oh, I don't drink. Oh, I don't drink. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, you don't drink, huh?" It was obviously a very awkward moment, and it seemed right away that Maureen understood, zipped her little lips, and decided not to pursue it any further. But then later, there was this follow-up where Nikki goes up to Maureen's room, and they start to talk, and it's really nicey nice. And by the way, I like it. I think that Nikki needs a friend, and Maureen seems like she could be a good candidate for that. I think a good, solid friend is something that's been missing in Nikki's life since Catherine died. Obviously, Maureen is maybe not the type, I don't know, maybe she's not the type of friend Nikki needs. I don't know. I just am enjoying it for what it is right now. I'm happy that Y&R didn't turn it into a drinking buddy thing where they were both lushes. It seems like Maureen is just a casual drinker. It's just part of her personality, and she doesn't know who she's dealing with. I don't know, or does she? It seems like she just, is casual and doesn't know that Nikki is an alcoholic, doesn't understand. How could she understand the full struggle of what Nikki's going through right now? But she keeps offering Nikki a drink, I guess just not knowing any better. And I don't know, on the surface, Maureen seems legit. What do you guys think? Nikki ends up giving in to having a glass of wine with her. And I mean, do you think there's any chance that Maureen knows more about Nikki than she's letting on? It's public knowledge that she's an alcoholic, but at the same time, I just don't know what would Maureen have to gain from walking Nikki down the path of destruction. Chelsea is back from her trip, and she's got a hot new assistant. I'm sure she hired him for his resume. Yeah, he's very qualified. It's funny. She runs into Billy at the rooftop bar. He sees her hot new assistant, and it was a very jealous moment for him. And I will say, the new Billy really did click with me for the first time this week. I wish he was cast as somebody other than Billy. I think those are really big shoes to fill, and I don't know that he quite fits the Billy bill. But I do think that he is a little bit of a charming actor. I thought it was funny that he was calling Chelsea's assistant six packs and what's his abs. That was charming to me. Chelsea and Billy decide that, hey, no more of these games. Billy's obviously jealous if she's with anyone else. Chelsea out, and he's free. Chelsea is obviously free and trying to move on, and there's a connection there. So both Billy and Chelsea decide together that maybe they should see if a relationship is possible. And they're just like coming in close for this moment. Like, yeah, let's see if we can make it work. Enter Victoria to see all of this. This is the pattern. How many times are Billy and Chelsea going to be kind of close in a park or at a restaurant or whatever, and then Victoria comes in staring at them intently? Victoria is literally fresh from telling Nick that she's starting to remember why she loved Billy in the first place, and then, of course, starting to remember all of this inconveniently right after she signed the divorce papers. Hey, remember last week, Victoria, when you had your chance to get back together with Billy, and you forced him to sign the divorce papers anyway? Yeah, that. Now you're going to stand there and be jealous of him deciding to move on with Chelsea when you're clearly moving on with your own life and are completely open to a life with possibly Stitch? Well, I don't know if she's completely open to it, but she was in the past. Why is it not okay for Billy to move on if it's okay for her to move on? I was glad that Chelsea told her off. It was an awkward moment between them, and Chelsea just got up in her face and said, you know, Victoria, you can't have it both ways. You don't want Billy, but you don't want anyone else to have him. And Victoria's having the exact same reaction with Abby and her relationship with Stitch. Victoria is observing Abby and Stitch working together, and she reamed Abby a little bit, saying, well, it looks like you were flirting with Stitch. So what do you want, Victoria? And if you're having so much trouble making up your mind about what you want, how's about you go to the hospital right now, today, and get that paternity test that you should have gotten weeks ago? Michael and Lauren were putting on a public face for Paul's party, but there's something broken in their relationship. And I had some high hopes at the beginning of the week because they came home from that party and they start to settle in to a romantic evening with movie and a cake. And by the way, how does Lauren Fenmore eat cake straight out of the box and still look like that? I would like to know her secret. You ever notice that sometimes especially the female actresses, when they have to eat cake for a scene or ice cream or something, you can tell. Lauren, she had like the littlest bit of cake pieces on the fork. I mean, it almost looked like an empty fork. If it would have been me standing there with a box of cake, if I'm going for the box, if I'm not even gonna bother with a plate, forget the pretense, the box, I'm gonna be digging into it. And Lauren was just like, I'll just have a crumb. That is how she looks like that. Crumbs only. So it was cute just seeing them being casual at home, and sparks started to fly. They're watching a romantic movie and remembering how much their relationship is epic, and they start to, make out, and the next thing you know, the scene comes back and we see that it was another unsuccessful attempt. Very heartbreaking. The next day, Lauren's like ready to talk about it. It's happening. It's not just an isolated incident anymore. Michael is not able to get it up. This is the reality of it. She wants to try to talk to him. And she does try to approach it very, very delicately, but Michael doesn't want to acknowledge it. He certainly doesn't want to talk about it, and naturally Lauren is starting to wonder if there's any chance that there could be someone else in Michael's life. Their relationship is epic. It is one for the storybooks, but that certainly didn't stop her from having an affair. I think she knows that in the back of her mind, and I think that's the seed of doubt there. Besides, Michael's getting along so well with Avery, discovering all of the briefcases that they have in common. He is throwing himself into work, in fact, taking on more caseload. This partnership with Avery was supposed to save him from having to work 24/7 and allow him to have more time to be at home, focus on himself, his family, his wife, and instead he's throwing himself into work so that he doesn't have to acknowledge the problem. He did go, I can't remember what he was doing at the hospital, but he ran into a doctor. Did he go there intentionally for this or not? I don't know. He runs into a doctor and asks him to give him the boner pills. It was a delicate scene. Michael didn't want to say, can you help me with the thing, the thing? And the doctor's like, well, you got all your hair and you look like you're in good shape, so I can only assume you mean the thing. So he gets his pills. I don't know if that's going to work for him. I tell you, I do like this storyline. If this is as far as it goes, if this is all it is, I do like it, because I think that maybe, I think soaps and the show is probably dominated by female viewers, and so I don't think YNR does as much to address men's health issues or men's emotional issues, and that's a big, that's a stage of life, and I mean, in all seriousness, I'm sure that is very frustrating. I'm sure that not being able to perform sexually puts you into kind of a mental state of like, well, I'm getting older, I'm not as good as I used to be, then what am I? If I'm not what I was before, then what am I now? And I think that would be really hard for a guy. And so I like that. I think the storyline is interesting. I just don't want it to go any further. I don't want to see Michael end up with cancer or some severe thing like that. And I don't really want to see him have an affair either. How about some comments? I got a lot of comments this week. Let's start out with Grenadian Candy on YouTube says, I really actually like Kelly and Jack as an item. I never felt the heat between Jack and Red, but they also might pair her up with Avery's ex. So I'm assuming that's Phyllis with Avery's ex, and I like that idea. I think that's kind of interesting because, shoot, Avery stole Phyllis's ex from her. Why shouldn't Phyllis come right in and steal Avery's ex from her? But I kind of also think that it does seem like Avery and Dylan's relationship is kind of breaking up. Michael and Lauren's relationship is kind of having trouble, and now all of a sudden Michael and Avery are having this law practice together. It kind of seems like YNR might be testing the waters for a potential relationship there. I don't necessarily want to see that. But I'm curious about Avery's ex. I think he's going to play an important role. And I could actually almost see him with the new Phyllis. That seems like it could be an interesting pair. They both seem a little slimy. To me, that could work. Anna called into my voicemail and said, I think Maureen is not upset about losing her husband because she killed him. Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think so too. And Stitch is covering up for it, and that in and of itself right there is enough to throw Maureen's character into question. If she is the kind of mother who would let her son take the fall for that, then who knows? I don't know what kind of person she is, but that has got to be the secret that's going to come out. I'm sure that's going to be redeeming Stitch, and it'll allow Maureen to take the fall for it, and then I'm sure YNR can push her off of the canvas if they want to, or keep her around, but it frees up Stitch, since he'll probably end up being the father of Victoria's baby, freeing up Billy for the Chelsea-Adam triangle. Now, speaking of Chelsea and Billy, Bobby Thompson on Facebook said, a good soap twist would be Chelsea and Billy getting together and taking Johnny back. After all, they are the child's biological parents. I think we've been all waiting for that, right, Bobby? I mean, like, since that happened, it was always a fear in the back of Victoria's mind that someday Chelsea was going to want the child back. And now, if Billy and Chelsea are getting close, that is their son. I mean, it's their biological son. They do share that bond. It's certainly possible that storyline could come into play. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah, Simone called into my voicemail and said the new actor who's going to take over for Adam, or who's going to be recast as Adam, was literally Adam on the other show that he was on. And she also said that the actor who played that Adam was so awesome that her sister named her son after him. That's amazing. I love that. I think that's really cool, and it gives me hope for new Adam. I am 100% in. Again, I've said it before, as much as I loved Michael Mooney, I'm 100% open to new Adam. And when are we going to get that, by the way? Is that going to be a November sweeps thing? Because if so, that's got to be about a month away, and I'm ready for it now. I'm ready for it now. But it gives us a good month and a half maybe to build up the Chelsea-Billy relationship just in time for Adam to come back onto the scene. I really can't wait. That makes me excited, Simone, to hear that. About Nick and Sharon, Gary called into my voicemail and just a really lovely comment. Said, love-making scenes can seem choreographed. sometimes, but Nick and Sharon are soulful. Gary used the word soulful to describe that lovemaking scene, and I thought that summarizes it perfectly. You do see a lot of romance on the show. There are a lot of couples on the show, but there is something special about Nick and Sharon. It doesn't feel like just a sexy soap scene, which I agree. I mean, sometimes even like the Devon and Hilary thing, even though I thought it was good, there was something about it that I was just like, blech, you know, I don't want to see too much. But there was something about that scene with Nick and Sharon where it was more than the physical. You really felt just an emotional, spiritual, almost connection between them. It was a beautiful scene. Jennifer Boudin on YouTube, or is it Boudin or Boudin? I'm just going to say both and cover my bases. She says, why are fans thinking that Nick will leave Sharon? He was not into Phyllis before she went into a coma, so why would he be ready to leave Sharon now? He, more than anyone, knows that Sharon is sick. I think he will surprise everyone and stay with her. He has hardly, if ever, mentioned Phyllis. He's never been to visit. I'm not worried he's going to leave Sharon. I'm worried for Sharon's safety because I think Phyllis has changed into a raging lunatic by Victor and the mad scientist. Yes, on every single level, yes, I agree. I think that Nick, more than anyone, will understand that Sharon was sick when all of this took place. It's going to make Nick take a step back. There's no way he's going to be able to just not miss a beat. I think he's going to have to process the magnitude of what Sharon did and have his time to just reconnect with Summer, but I do think he will ultimately forgive her. I don't think YNR is going to be working, I mean, maybe working toward getting Phyllis and Nick back together, but I kind of don't think so. I think you're 100% right, Jennifer, about we're getting warned about Phyllis's personality, and she may be more volatile than ever, if that's even possible. Keebler Alves on YouTube said, speaking of people who've aged really well, let's talk about Sharon Case and those flashbacks. I read last week that it was her 20th year playing Sharon Newman, and I will say she hasn't aged a day. In fact, she looks better now than she did in those flashbacks. YNR must have a fountain of youth in the makeup room. I totally agree. I always feel like, I mean, I know some people don't like Sharon, but I love Sharon, and I just think she's so beautiful, and I was thinking the same thing this week. I also always noticed that she's so well put together. I love how she's styled. I loved the bracelet that she had on this week. It was kind of like a circle around it, and it was diamondy or something. I felt, somebody told me, I can't think of her name, on YouTube, that Sharon Case has her own jewelry line, so maybe that's it, because her jewelry is always stunning. I just really like her. I really agree. I'm enjoying Sharon right now. I'm glad we stuck with her because there were a million different times where YNR could have wrote her off the canvas and they didn't. They stuck it out, and I think, and I mean, crying out loud, what were we saying a year, 2 years ago about Sharon? It was a nightmare. And now I'm liking her again. I think it's good. It's just, it's the right level. Francis Cole Whitlow on Facebook says, do cats get hair extensions in heaven? I get it. Paul got his citizenship award for being an expert in dirt. The citizens of Genoa City are safe. I like that comment on every level. I was thinking the same thing about Cassie's hair extensions, and Paul, yeah, he's an expert in mud. Shannon Burge on YouTube said, I don't think Dylan killed Ian. Why is Paul so on Dylan about Ian and not others in town? Not bringing in Victor, not bringing in Nikki for answers, and Paul is buying what Jeffrey tells him. I think Paul plays cop when it suits him. I agree, Shannon, I agree. One other thing Gary had mentioned in his voicemail is that Devon has become very unlikable. The affair with his father's wife, with his stepmother, it just, and the way he's so relentlessly pursued her despite the fact that she's told him no and asked him to stop on many occasions, it's made him unlikable. I also, it tickled me because Gary had mentioned, you know, why would Catherine Chancellor leave all of her fortune to Devon when, do you know what Brock Reynolds could have done with all of that fortune? He could have fed a whole country. I mean, Devon is here kind of just using it to, he's becoming so self-indulgent with the money, buying cars and throwing it off the rooftop when Brock could have done so much more good. I'm sure Brock got some money too, but that comment tickled me because I'm a Brock fan. But also, by the way, I mean, I got so many comments last week about the Malcolm and all that, and like everybody had to weigh in to tell me I got it wrong about Devon's father. For some reason, my brain just blacked out and I completely forgot that Tucker was Devon's father. I think I said maybe that we didn't know who Devon's father was. I think I blacked out because I never 100% accepted it. I never 100% accepted Tucker as Catherine's son, and I never 100% accepted Devon as Tucker's son. It's funny how things work. And another thing somebody else mentioned was, I forgot when I was talking about Malcolm in the past, and that flashback scene that they showed of him getting ready to get married, and I thought maybe it was Keisha. Someone else told me, no, it was Olivia. He was getting ready to marry Olivia, and Nate was their son. I know that. I was there, but it's like my brain just, Olivia is totally forgettable to me. I hate to say it, but I talked ad nauseum about all of that, and I don't think I talked at all about Olivia, which makes me feel bad. Didn't talk about Nate. Yeah, that's probably pretty bad of me, but it's funny because I mean, I don't have the world's greatest memory. Anybody that knows me, I just don't. I don't have a good memory. I forget. I'm very in the moment and then things slip away. And probably the thing I have the most memory for is YNR, but at the same time, I think there's a part of me that just picks and chooses the storylines that I like, and I remember those, and everything else can just go away. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the show this week. I hope you enjoyed our YNR chat. Don't be shy. You can leave me a comment here on YouTube. Just use the box below. I love you guys. I love all you regular commenters too. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, you guys, flash photo. I could just name all of your usernames from memory. I love seeing your comments. I really, really appreciate it. So don't be shy. Leave me some comments, and I may just include them in the comments section for next week. I usually try to pick things that work in with what I'm talking about, or worked in with the show for the previous week. So yeah, leave me your comments throughout the week about the vlog or just about YNR in general as you're watching. You can also go to my website at yrchat.com. You can vote in the polls and see my screenshots and all that good stuff. Or you could just come back next week. And I'll see you guys then. I love ya. All right.